All right. Thanks so much for joining us for this special session that we have lined up today with Revathi Roy. And the topic today, of course, resilience, particularly at a time like this, given that we're all going through a lot of uncertainty and difficulties in our businesses. I think there's no one better or more inspiring to speak with than Revathi. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She's, of course, the founder of HeyDD, which is a hyperlocal logistics venture. She's been on every power list, most recently the Fortune Most Powerful Women in Business list, that's the top 50. And Hey Didi features an all-woman fleet. They deliver parcels from gifts to groceries to their customers, and the ethos of it is really to empower women. It's the first all-women taxi service, in fact, in Asia. I want to really talk about what prompted Revathi to enter the entrepreneurship space, to build a business and build one that empowers women. She actually faced a sudden loss post her husband's illness and subsequent death in 2006. And after that, there was really no looking back. Life took her in a completely different direction. And we all know many years later how much of a success she's made of herself. But we're going to talk to her about that. I don't want to give it all away. Revathi, let me start off with, getting a sense of what your early years were like in terms of college. Were you working post-college, before marriage? Your personality, just to give us an idea of whether you always had this entrepreneurial spirit or if you got to that a little later in life.
Thank you so much, Abha, for your generous introduction. And yes, to answer your question, I was always known as a princess at home. So, I got everything even before I actually asked for it. I had to just say something, and my father would say, "Here it is." However, I don't think I could have called myself a spoiled brat because clearly we lived in something like a one-bedroom flat, and we always had people from all over coming and staying with us as if it was their own home. So at no point of time do I remember ever being alone with my parents. And it was always somebody who's either coming for studying, somebody's coming for a job, somebody's coming to get married. So it was always, a kind of a joint family atmosphere. And all this in a one bedroom. I mean, I can just imagine how today's children would react to being in a one bedroom with so many people. But there's no privacy, all of that. But I think we just enjoyed it. I mean, I just enjoyed being where I was. In those days, I lived in a place called Dadar, which was predominantly a Marathi speaking area, middle class Marathi speaking. So going to a convent school itself was a very big thing that time.
Yeah, yeah.
And going to a convent school with my father coming to drop me every day by car, and we were one of those few people who had vehicles that time. So all this really made me a very privileged person, and I really am, kind of very grateful for that. And then I went to St. Xavier's College. I think it just kind of transformed me into what I am now. I think Xavier's does that to people. And the kind of people I met, the friends I made, the people I interacted with, the way we were, with a lot of freedom there. So I went to St. Xavier's, I did my graduation, and then did my master's in economics from Bombay University. So clearly, I don't know why I did my post-graduation, because economics was not really my pet subject or anything. It was just that, you flow. You just kind of, your parents say, good, you've done economics now, so you go and do economics again, so one did it. And it was easy rolling, it was not a difficulty for me to kind of do my academics. I was pretty good in academics.
Right.
But during all this time, what actually happened when I entered college was, at 15, I entered college. And my sole focus from then was that I'll be 18. And at 18, I must get a license.
Right.
So, people have aspirations of getting a degree, and when you go to college, you will have other aspirations. My only aspiration, because my age was such that at 18 I would be in college, I wanted to get a license. And I always saw my dad driving throughout, and I used to feel, wow, look at him, he actually has the power of the steering in his hand. And it was,
Oh,
I always felt that steering in your hand is your freedom.
sure.
Because you get into the car,
Yeah, true.
driving.
It's true.
If Abha
And
sitting next to me or she's sitting behind me, she has to go where I'm going, So
well, there was a time when you're right. I think today, okay, we're still a little bit more used to being chauffeured around, particularly in the Ola days. But there was a time when we were younger, it was exhilarating to be
yeah,
able to drive
very.
for
And it
someone.
was
Yeah.
like mind-blowing concept of, having a car in your hand, in a vehicle in your hand. So at 18, I remember, I'm now 60 years old, but I've been driving for 42 years now. And
No, when you say 60, I always pause because to me, you have the energy of a young entrepreneur. And I'm not just saying that.
young at heart. So, yeah, so at 18, when I went and enrolled myself for driving, exactly 3 weeks later, I was driving. It was not even that I had to do something, I had to go for a test again. I actually started driving. And my father just gave me a vehicle. He just said, yeah, take this and drive. So it was like a fish taking to water. I mean, I just simply I knew that I was born to drive. I mean, right
Nice.
from then, I kept
Nice.
thinking that I was born to drive. So
Yeah.
this is till 18. Now, what happened was that at 18, I became a very important person at home
Sure.
because I was perpetually being asked to drop people to the station, to the airport, to pick them up, to drop them, because there's no function which could happen without me, because everybody used to tell me, go drop this one, go pick up this one. So I was the main person, in the house. And at 18, 19, 20, you think you're damn important.
Yeah.
so, so you're like, wow, I've made it in life. Like, nothing can happen without me.
Right. Right.
So I could drive to college, I could actually take the vehicle to college and from there go for movies. And so not many people would get their cars that time. I'm talking of 1970s, I'm talking
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
to 80, 1976 to 80 was a different world. It was a
Yeah.
completely different world. So once
True.
in a way, I used to take my car, and all the friends used to get in, and I had that huge ambassador. So I think of myself now, I don't think I was seen. I'm so short that I don't think I was seen, but yet I was driving. It was great. And then I had a college romance. I got married. My husband was also from St. Xavier's College, of course, 3 years older than me. And so, with the year I entered college, he left college.
Okay.
But he kept coming back to meet me. Then we got married. I have three lovely boys. I got married in the year 1985.
Okay.
And this was post my graduation and about another 5 years of working here and there. And we got married. I have three lovely boys. The young men now, of course. And yeah, so immediately after that, what is some, there is an upgrading that happens with everybody in any job that you do or any work that you do. You always feel today you're doing this, tomorrow you should be able to do this. For me, as far as my driving was concerned, I saw an ad which said that there was a car rally happening.
Uh,
Right, I think when I was 18 and a half or 19 years old, and I said, this is it. I said, I have to participate in this car rally. And I went and told my dad that, I have to participate in the rally. Now, the little background I must give you on that. My father, I mean, our family, we've lost my brother in a car accident
okay.
years ago in 1965 when I was only 5 years old. In spite of that, my father never stopped me from either driving and more so, even rallying. So,
Wow.
that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that resilience that
Yeah.
we're talking about today, I think that resilience comes from my father,
Stems from there.
stems from there, because he never once made me feel that, look, we have gone through that incident, so you shouldn't live your life. It never he did that. And I think that made me very, very independent in my thinking. And it never restricted me thinking that, oh, he's passed away, so, and it was a car accident. But yet I was allowed to do what I was doing. So going from that 1979 to right about 5 years back, maybe, there were multiple rallies that I participated in. I did about 85 car rallies. I won 80 of them. And so I keep telling people, don't go by my attire of a sari, because you have a perception people have that a rally driver has to be, like tagda type.
Yeah.
The tagdaness comes in driving. It doesn't need to be the way you dress. So, and of course, I do wear other kinds of clothes, but the point is that, even in a sari, you can still be a rally driver and win the rally. So, a lot of people used to say, "You drive, are you drive?" Of course, I do. So, the perception. So,
Yeah.
rallies happened right till about 5 years back. So, this primarily is my personal side to where I come from. So, I was a princess. I literally brought up like a princess
Wow.
and very privileged, uh, very, very privileged. So,
Well, this is a part of your story I haven't heard before, and it does give us a lot of flavor, a lot of context, helps us understand how you bounced back post your husband's death, and that was a very difficult period for you. And and I'm sorry to make you relive it, in this conversation, but tell us about that, because I don't think people know how difficult the experience got for you, given that you were facing financial hardships, social ostracization, and you even went to jail.
yeah. So okay. So yeah, reliving moments. Now I've been talking about it, so it's not so bad. But when I first started talking about the this part of my life, it really used to come and torment me. But I realized that while I'm talking about this, there are loads of women or loads of men, everybody who's actually getting inspired by it. I think that gave me the courage to talk more. And my life is an open book, so I'm not, trying to hide anything. It's just there. I mean, it's there for
Yeah.
everybody to read. It's there for. Uh, there's a authorized biography which has been written
I
about
know, I
and
know. Yeah.
everything. It's getting converted to a biopic by John Abraham.
Oh wow. Yes, I read about that actually. Yes.
The book rights were bought by, the book was published by Publishing Infinity. The rights were bought over by the Bohra brothers, and it's now being produced and directed by John Abraham and Robbie Grewal. So I think that whole story will come out at some point in time. So I don't mind really talking about it.
Hmm.
So clearly, when I got married, life was hunky dory. I mean, it was just wonderful. There was no issues. It's just that my husband, from day one, I mean, I'm talking of I got married when I was 25 and my husband was 28. But when my husband was 24 years old, he was detected with diabetes. And I remember one of the incidents when we were driving along and he got hypoglycemia. But this was while we were not married. And I come from a family, my maternal side of the family, who've never seen even fever. So we don't even know. We come from a very strong health constitution family, very, very
Okay.
healthy constitution family. And so I said, what was that? So I actually took him to my family doctor.
Acha.
And when my family doctor saw him and met him and stuff like that, he actually picked up the phone after we left from there and called my dad.
Okay.
And he said, look, I think she's dating this guy. And I think she must be having intentions of getting married. And my father said, yeah, she does. And he said, but I don't think she should. He said, because he is going to have major health problems.
Oh no, you're kidding. Oh my gosh.
I told my father that. And my father's response to that was, should this have happened one day after her marriage, would you have said the same thing?
Wow.
And my dad said, leave her. It's her decision. And but he did tell me that he said, I hope you know what you're entering into. And love is blind. So
Yeah, it is.
yeah,
Through the ages. Yeah.
he was a lovely person. So I said, and I just believed that it was love which was going to make his health better. It was love which I would be able to control his diabetes. I knew nothing about the disease. I really knew nothing about the disease.
Mm.
But I didn't even have that much brains to start reading about it. I was just in my own world. I was just saying that, wow, he's going to get okay. You know how it is. You're in the dream world. You
Yeah.
really live in a dream world. So anyway, so and life went on. He then had his first heart attack somewhere in 2000. Before that, in 1994, while we were watching the World Cup, Football World Cup, we were sleeping, I remember, and he woke me up very frantically because the Bengalis, you know how they are about football.
Yeah.
And he woke me up and he was trying to tell me something. And I kept thinking that he's going to show me a goal because every time there's a goal, he used to wake me up. I didn't get up, you know. I said, I'm not looking at the goal. That moment, he actually had a paralytic attack. And he was trying to tell me that I've got a paralytic attack. I need to go to the hospital. He
Oh
had a
no.
paralytic attack.
Oh
I,
no.
of course, quickly got up when I realized that things were not okay. And I remember my car was with another friend.
Hmm.
That night we were playing carom, and you know he had taken the car because he didn't have a vehicle. So he said to me that, so I just got him down in the building and I borrowed a milkman's cycle and I rushed on the cycle to that friend's house, which was just about a few blocks away. I picked up my car from there, came back, put him in the car, and rushed him to the hospital.
Wow.
And while we were there, the doctors who were there, I don't want to name the hospitals and all, but the doctors who were there, they kept telling me that it's Bell's palsy. They refused to see that his blood pressure was so high and he's already had a paralytic stroke. It was monsoon. And they said it was Bell's palsy. And he, with his left hand, I remember, wrote and gave me. He said, tell them to check my BP. And when they checked his BP, it was 230 by 180.
Oh my gosh.
Was disastrous. It was disastrous. And there was no place in the hospital. We had to rush him from that hospital to another hospital. And on the way, I remember at Haji Ali, he held my hand and he said, I'm not going to make it. And I remember the friend who was driving, I said, just drive, break all the signals, just rush to the hospital. And we went there and put him in the hospital. The progress of the paralytic stroke had already happened. So there was damage done to his right side, yeah, his right face, hand, and legs. But luckily, you know, with a lot of physiotherapy and a lot of timely treatment at that point of time, at least, uh, he recovered with no residual effect. Absolutely no residual effect. And I think that's when I first learned my tryst with bad health.
Right.
But I really didn't know, you know, I knew nothing. And so that was the first incident that happened. And then we became very careful. We said, wow, this is something which is there. Now
Yeah.
I have two young boys. And my third son was born subsequently after that. He was born in 1995. And things were fine. You know, he always, I mean, we didn't even know that he had a heart issue. We just knew he had blood pressure and diabetes.
Yeah.
But Bengalis normally love to eat. So, you know, our health habits are not too healthy. So it's rice, it's mutton, it's, you know, a lot of things.
Right. Right.
In 2000, he had one heart attack where we went through a bypass and he became perfectly all right after that. There was no issues at all. In 2004, this is what happened. In 2004, on the 16th of December, he was out on he was a software person. He had a software company. And I believe he was one click away from becoming a billionaire. That's what I believe. That's what he had developed.
Wow.
Came back from Delhi after a 1 week trip. And I remember we were staying in a apartment at Prabhadevi. And I opened his medicine box after he came back. There was not a single medicine which he had taken. It
And you
was
should have.
all there like that. He had not consumed a single medicine of blood pressure which he had taken
Oh
together.
no.
And I really lost it, you know. I said, you know, everything I'd packed and given, and you've not even taken it. And exactly about an hour later, he was gasping for breath. And he said, I can't breathe. And again, that night we rushed him to um, Shushrusha Hospital in Dadar. And I don't believe much in superstitions at all. But I don't know, things, something like this had happened with me twice. So, you know, I don't really want to talk about what happened, but I'm not a very superstitious believer in anything. But anyway, I rushed him to the hospital and they quickly rushed him to the ICU. It was my middle one and me who had gone to we took him because my eldest son was studying in Pune that time. He was in
Yeah,
engineering.
yeah,
And we went to the hospital, they rushed him to the ICU, and we were standing inside the ICU. And I saw the that screen. You know, they have that
yeah,
screen.
yeah,
It went flat. All of that went flat. And there were some 5 or 6 nurses, doctors who were all trying to revive him with a shock treatment, electric shocks.
yeah.
And remember, my son went to the pushed some nurses away and screamed into his ears. He said, "Daddy, you can't go." Tobu, which is he was 7 years old that time. And he said,
Yeah.
"Tobu, very young, he's only 7 years old. We are waiting outside for you. You have to come back." You will not believe it. He held my hand and he said, "Let's go out and sit. Daddy's coming." And we went and sat outside. You won't believe it, Abha. 30 minutes later, the doctor came back and said, "He's back."
Okay.
He said, "He's back."
Gosh. Yeah.
But we didn't realize that he had slipped into a coma. Now,
Oh no,
that
he
came
was in a coma for 2, 3 years. Yeah,
2.5 years.
2.5 years. Yeah.
He stayed in that state for 2.5 years. Of course, in the first few days, he was not, even his physical parameters were not okay.
Mm.
Now, what happened after that was that I went to the bank to draw money. I was in the biggest shock of my life. I went there and I realized that the bank account needed both signatures. It was not either or, it was a joint account.
Oh
And I
gosh.
think of myself, I am considered to be educated, enlightened, intelligent, smart, all of that. How did I do this? I don't know how I did this, but this was there, and I had to start borrowing money. Started borrowing money from different people in the hope that tomorrow he is going to get okay. I'm going to get his signature, and we are going to pay everybody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
1 month went to 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. It just went on because we didn't know, we were living on hope. During that time, 5 of the people who I had borrowed money from, I returned one person's full money by taking from, it was like taking from this one, giving that one, taking from that one. It was a bad scene. They all filed criminal cases against me. And I got arrested. I went behind bars. I was in
How
police.
horrible for your children as well to.
Because it was a situation, Abha, where, like in the book, the author has written there that she says that it was a state for the children where the father could not talk because he was in a coma and the mother would not talk. So it was that kind of a scene.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I survived. I mean,
What was it like in jail? I mean,
bad, of course.
yeah. I mean, I've heard some horror stories, just one or two, other than what you see on TV. So I wouldn't know
It's
more
very
than.
bad. It's like I don't think anybody on this earth should face anything like what I have gone through. First of all, you are termed a, a, a criminal before even the case is,
Sure. Sure.
I've been acquitted and there's one going on. It's sub judice, so I can't talk about it. So what it does to you, how it traumatizes you by people or socially ostracizing you is killing. You have to have tremendous resilience, perseverance, and guts to come out of it. Tremendous. I mean, that's one thing I would like to pat myself on. Maybe a lot of things I don't do right. Maybe I'm not good at a lot of things, but I think I did bounce back. Inside the jail, you meet all kinds of people. You meet criminals, you meet people who are into drugs, you meet prostitutes, you meet murder victims, you meet so many different kinds of people. You meet white collar crime people, you meet so many different kinds of people. And everybody's in the same state. So you are recognized by the sections that you have been accused of.
Sure.
So they all see those sections, and you have an aluminium plate to eat, you have an aluminium glass to drink water with. It is horrendous. I mean, before if you survive that mental, torture which you do to yourself also, it's not that somebody else is doing it, but everybody is calling you a criminal there. How will you get back to normalcy? How?
But how did the bank not help you when you would have been able to?
It is very recently that I think a year and a half ago that High Court has ruled that if there is any such situation, the spouse can do something. There is a High Court order now.
It's ridiculous. Your husband's in a coma and you have a joint account.
Rubber, a thumb impression. A thumb
Yeah.
could have been taken, but I was not willing to do that. I couldn't have done. I couldn't have thought of taking that. I mean, I just kept feeling that he wouldn't know what he's doing, and psychologically, anyway, I went through this. So
Did you ever have a doubt about that ethical decision when we were sitting in jail? Right?
I just said, while inside, you just feel, when am I going out?
Right,
You
right.
know that every day you're seeing, and I think that place actually made me realize a lot of things, because there were people around me who were drug peddlers, who were prostitutes, who were doing so many different kinds of crimes,
Hmm.
and they had already got bail.
Right.
Amount would have been some 3,000-4,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, but they didn't have money to pay that also. And I used to look at them and say, imagine if I could go out and skill all of them. So this thought of this whole thing actually ideated, I think, there, because I felt that I should empower them with something. It was a it was a revelation which I made to myself.
So when you came out of jail and you went in because you were broke as in you didn't have access to your funds.
Oh, I was
Yeah. And then you come out of jail and you weren't working. I mean, before you went into jail, you weren't working otherwise.
real estate. I was working.
Yeah, but things got tough. Okay. So when you came out, I mean, how did you start a business? Because yeah, I mean, you literally started as a one woman venture, if I remember correctly. Right?
See, my own skill, which
Hmm.
is driving. I said,
Hmm.
I see, forever, for the longest time of my life, I have been dropping people back, because I'm a teetotaler. I don't drink and smoke. So all my drunken friends have got dropped by me at some point of time in their life.
Right.
Always. Okay. So, and they were very ungrateful also, because if next morning I used to call them and say, hangover gaya kya? And they say, oh, you dropped us. I used to say, what the hell? I take so much trouble to drop your bag safely and you're not even bothered. So I told them one day, I'll start something of my own, and then you'll have to hire me to drop you. Then you'll have to pay me. Then you'll realize. So that point of time, actually, I realized that I have a skill and I can make money of that skill.
Sure.
So that's when I started thinking of becoming a cab driver. So actually, I started my journey by being a cab driver on the streets of Bombay. I've
And
actually driven as a cab driver. So
not everyone goes from cab driver to Fortune 500, right? So, so
there
what?
are humble stories which are there out there in the world for people to see. But
Look, I know it's too much to sort of go through all the steps, but tell us a few of the the critical kind of inflection points.
the inflection point in the driving thing was really that I decided to become a driver, and I said I'm going to start a cab company. So there was this. Those days, Just Dial was in vogue. It was not Google, not Google so much.
Ah,
So I had to call some Just Dial and tell them to give me a number of the ad agency, because I wanted that guy to help me out. So that guy really became my kind of seed investor, not with money, but he gave me credit.
sure.
And so what happened was that on January 25th, we released an advertisement
Hmm.
in one of the tabloids to say that launching Asia's first women's taxi service, and we called it Forsh. It was a
Okay.
play on Porsche, Porsche, but the spelling was Forsh, Forsche, and we pronounced it Forshe, for
Okay.
her. So,
Right. Right.
and we said wanted women drivers. Now we were so idealistic, I didn't even know that time that to become a cab driver, to drive a commercial vehicle, you need a different kind of a license. I didn't even know that. So I mean, I think we are living in another world where, just one idea comes and you go and do something of that idea. It was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
bad. I mean, today when I think of it, I feel, what was I doing, So, and so we released an ad on the 25th of January. 26th morning, my husband became very critical. And we lost him on the 29th of January of 2007. Now, after 2.5 years of being in a coma, he died. Now, so one was the inflection point of having been in jail and thinking about the skilling concept. The second inflection point was now when my husband died. I belong to a conservative Bengali family, so there are. I had a lot of relatives who had come from Calcutta, Tripura, and all that to condole. And I had locked myself in the room, and I changed my attire to white clothes because I was a widow.
Yeah.
The, that's typical of
Sure, sure.
the part of Tripura.
Hmm.
And that's when my uh, a friend of mine came to
Right.
visit me, and he gave me a book on Swami Vivekananda,
Okay.
and he said, "Read it." And I started reading. I was on page 26 of that book. There's a graphic representation of Swami Vivekananda sitting under a tree, and there's
Yeah.
a young blind boy sitting in front of him. That young blind boy asks Swamiji, he says, "Swamiji, is there anything worse than losing your eyesight?" Swamiji turns down to him and says, he says, "Yes, my son, losing your vision is worse than losing your eyesight." And I shut the book. It hit me. And I said, my late husband Siddharth was my eyesight. But what I am planning to do of empowering women with a skill is really my vision.
Hmm.
I had unblocked myself, but I had a bigger problem because the whole family was there. And how do I tell them I want to go out? I was not even able to tell them that I want to go out. So I called my mother in law to the room and I told her, I said, see, you have to allow me to step out. If I don't do it now, it was day 4 of my husband's death. And we're not supposed to get out for 40 days.
Yeah.
So I told her, I said, please allow me. And she turned around and said, she said, she's never been to school, she's not there anymore. She passed away.
Wow.
But she said to me, that she said, you must go. But she said only one condition. I was willing to listen to anything. And she said to me, she said, you will get back to colored clothes.
Oh.
No white clothes for you. You please dress up the way you used to earlier. Because, and the reasoning she gave me was even more profound. She said, I do not want my grandchildren to get up every day in the morning, look at you, and remember that they don't have a father. I mean, who says that? Who says
Yeah.
that to a daughter in law? She's just lost a child. And yet, she allowed me to build my life. And I really said to myself that day, I said, this emotional sacrifice that she has made for me, I'm not going to let it go waste.
Right.
And I think all these validations, whether it's the cover of Forbes, whether it's the Fortune 50 or any of these awards coming on this platform, coming on the ET platform, all of these, I think, are mere validations of her sacrifice that she made by allowing me to go out and empower me. So I think she empowered me, and I said to myself, lakhs of women are going to get empowered by me. And that's what I'm doing. So I moved away from a cab service to a logistics service because we couldn't do any price wars with the aggregator companies.
Sure.
I started a logistics company called Hey Didi. So Hey Didi is typically Hey and Didi is elder sister. So
Yeah.
I already had a pool of drivers who I had already trained. So
Sure.
here it was just moving from passenger movement to logistics movement. And who knew that COVID would hit us? Who knew the pandemic would hit us? Who knew that the online business would become as robust as it is now? Who knew that all of us would be sitting at home and ordering? So we really just grew exponentially during COVID times. And not just that, at a time when people were losing jobs, we were giving jobs month on month, even to date, we continue that. Month on month, I'm giving jobs to people in my company. So,
Awesome.
because online is here to stay, logistics is here to stay. We've just added a couple of more vehicles to our
Yeah.
fleet. So, during these times, if we can do that and just float, even if we
Hmm.
can just float, 2020, as they say, is a year of survival. Survive we will, and we will make some others also survive. But going ahead, I think we can not only stay afloat, but we can grow really well. And so
Lovely.
here I am.
So we do have a couple of questions coming in. Someone's asked the effects of a pandemic on a new organization. Well, I mean, I think they mean more generally, but I think it's slightly difficult to. I would assume that it also matters on the sector, but of course, for a young company, resilience must be important because many will not survive this time.
Very important resilience, because what happens is we tend to give up very easily. Human nature.
Sure.
Unless it is it unless there is nobody else who's earning in the family. You stick on, you try, if not A, you try B, if not B, you try C. You keep doing that. So I think in any young company, um, knowing that this can grow at some point of time, and if you can cut your costs, if you can, really become very, very you can be frugal, you can be prudent, and you can yet survive and do something, I think it's worth trying, because it's very difficult to close a company and restart. It's very tough. That's even tougher. So I think you can just stay afloat, but not foolishly. I mean, you need to figure out where your balance is, where the balance is.
You do need to be frugal at this point. Yeah. Which leads us to the next question, which is why, I mean, the whole topic today is resilience. And you've talked also about emotional resilience. And like you're saying, you can't give, it's better not to give up and keep at it. Someone's asking, why is it crucial for women? Well, I mean, I would assume it's important for everyone. I'm not sure it's specifically different for women, but I think maybe women already have apprehensions anyway about perhaps starting a business, running a business. So maybe they have bigger doubts at a time like this.
I think what happens, everybody has problems. Everybody has problems. But the issue here is that resilience for women, I don't know, like you said, whether it's different. But what happens is that in businesses, I have seen when a woman starts a business, it's a little different from a man starting. There are two things. One, when you go for investment, I mean, I must have knocked about 50 doors to get my first investment. Not easy, because I was lucky that I was at an age where I was not in the pregnancy, children, childbearing, all that age. But imagine how difficult it is for young girls.
Yeah.
Because whenever they go to pitch, the first question the investors will ask is, but you will have children, but you will have family, then will you take a break? How will you do it? It's very difficult. At least that question I didn't have.
Yeah.
Among the questions I had was, you've never done it before.
Yeah.
Those are the questions I had.
Yeah. It's so self-defeating, this whole "you never done it before" thing. It's like, right. Okay, so as a female boss, if one is tough with her team members, she's portrayed differently compared to a male boss. How do we overcome this bias? Someone's asking this question.
My office, they don't have a choice because I'm the one. So deal with me. But yeah, I think. So I'll tell you where the problem comes. When you're dealing with a lot of vendors, I do find you don't have so much of a problem dealing with your own staff. I mean, with your own team, that you don't have such a problem. But when you're dealing with outside people, no, they somehow tend to think she can't handle it. I've seen that. I think at my age, it is not as bad, but I can really imagine what it is for youngsters. I can really.
Maybe you have to just go out there and set the tone, regardless. Find a way to.
Aabha, I really strongly feel that there is a lurking feeling even in women's minds, whether they can handle finances.
Right.
Most of the people I know, I have a lot of friends who are CEOs, founders, co-founders, MDs, joint MDs. I have a lot of friends around. But when it comes to a financial decision, no, they want to get the husband involved. Or they want to get a brother involved. They want to get a father involved.
Yeah.
They just can't seem to take a decision on their own. I really wonder why. Their money. I'm not talking of family money. A guy can go take a wrong decision and lose money in the share market. That is okay. But if the girl does it, then it is told that you're not a good decision maker. Somehow this thing is there. I mean, I've seen it often. Even their own investments, they have to ask. They have to ask and do it. It's weird, but I mean, I don't know. I don't understand it. But I think it's high time people allowed women to take wrong decisions also.
Yeah, true.
Let the wrong decision. She'll learn. Every time if you're going to say that because of you it went wrong, even because of you it has gone wrong.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
In fact, the woman is much more careful, I feel. The risk-taking ability of the women is very high. That I agree. But also they don't take very foolish risks. They're first of all thinking of the family.
Yeah.
If you see, there's a research done by one of the car companies, leading car companies. So if there's a pit, they gave a woman and a man a car and they told them to drive. The man saw the pit, he went 2 feet and stopped. The woman stopped 10 feet earlier.
Oh.
So, there's so many such
Yeah.
anecdotes, so many such examples. But yeah, well, that's, I think, the society, that's how we are. I'm sure it's changing. So,
Yeah, eventually, gradually.
yeah.
Um, so some of the questions coming in are a little repetitive, but maybe we can add a fresh context to them. Someone's asked how to overcome gender biases and be a successful entrepreneur. Um,
Don't give a damn. Just, just be yourself. I think, see, at least in the business that I do, for example, it's driving. When I drove, I remember when I went to one of the authorities and they said, no, you can't become a cab driver. I said, please write and give me. But they obviously couldn't write it and give me. So
hmm,
the profession I am in is based on a skill. So that skill is not gender based. You either have the skill, it's agnostic. You either have that skill or you don't have it. And I can, with a lot of conviction, say this today that I'm the best driver in the world. Beat me if you can. So I'm immodest about my driving, my driving skills. That's why I run a successful business in my transportation industry. And not many people can. So that's why I'm a rally driver. That's why whatever. But
and
I
I've Yeah, and I've seen your team at work during COVID, right through the early days. They were the ones out on the streets delivering things. I saw that. So how did you finally manage to get funding for your venture? And post that, you've also got further grants, encouragement to also fund other startups.
my first funding rather came from ILNFS those days. I sold my stake back to ILNFS and I started another company called Veera Cabs,
Okay.
which is also with me now. Once you proved the POC, proof of concept,
So,
then people start believing in you.
so
You have to see, don't expect that because you're a woman, money is coming in. And you're no bechara, you know, that people have to look at you and say, because you're a woman, entrepreneur, I'm giving you money. They're going to look at their money. They're going to look at a model. They're going to look at an investor's model and then do it. So, respect the money that they're giving you.
so.
Your business has to justify that money. Because you're a woman, don't expect them to give you money. You have to justify it. Only then will you be able to do something. Now, I know loads of women's initiatives which have got fantastic uh, funding, fantastic investment. It was too good. But you have to prove.
No, and I think that's true for everyone, for sure. Um, just as we wind up, Revathi, I love that you're looking very much at peace now with where you're at. Any advice? I mean, you've shared a bit of advice, but you also have a lot of other exciting things coming up. You have the film with John Abraham. You have several new ventures that you're looking at or investing in. What are the newer or younger startups led by female founders, particularly, that are exciting? Um, that you feel are worthy of spending your time in or investing in going forward?
I feel that a whole lot of young girls, boys come to me for when I do my speaking engagements and earlier. I mean, not now, but now whatever we do is on Zoom. But people do used to come to me to ask me for advice whether this would run, the business would run or not. So typically in a college, I used to ask these children, "What do you want to do? What do you want to become?" Well, I want to make money. And I used to tell them that is an offshoot of a business that you would do. You're not an army. You're not a mint. You can't go print notes. So just tell me what do you want to do. So there's a lot of interesting stuff, and I very strongly, Abha, believe that everything that doesn't have to be digital, everything doesn't have to be IT. There are loads and loads and loads of businesses which are run because of human beings. It does not have to be IT based.
I
And
think, yeah.
and human
ADB is a really good example of that, for sure.
beings are doing a lot of jobs and human beings will continue to do that job.
Mm-hmm.
So all investment does not have to be in an IT based company. I mean, I can't get that. I really can't get that. I mean, typically when I used to go for funding, this to say, what's your IT product on it?
Yeah.
Girl will be driving. The only IT product I can have is a GPS. or a petrol parameter or something like that, what else can I give you? I mean, she's going to be, do we have automated cars right now? We don't. So what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That everything can't be technology based, everything cannot be IT based. So I'm very much into the space of non IT based companies, people who are doing something like that, and I would love to support those companies.
All right.
Non
Wonderful.
IT.
Wonderful. And we will talk more about that later. But Revathi, thank you so much for joining us here today. And I'd love to thank Empoweress for supporting, female entrepreneurs. And if you haven't already checked them out, then do log on and look at their programs. I'm sure you'll find it very beneficial. With that, it's a wrap from us. Thanks so much, Aishwarya and team.
Thank you, Empowerers. And thank you, Abha.